Well, let's bring in Kayleigh McEnany. She's functioning with us today as the White House press secretary. So this news came a bit of a surprise when Krebs was fired. He came back, basically tweeted out that Chris Krebs did, but he basically feels like he did the right thing. Did he have a pattern of things, Kayleigh? Did the president express to you that he was doing that bothered the president, or was it just this one?
Yeah, the president has pointed out that he made an inaccurate statement. He actually made a few, if you look at his Twitter feed. But look, if you say that this was the most secure election in American history, as the president rightly pointed out, that may be true from a standpoint of foreign interference, but you just heard Griff Jenkins say there were 3 tranches of ballots uncounted that were found in Georgia, amounting to nearly 6,000 votes. You have 234 pages of sworn affidavits in Michigan, in one county alone, alleging egregious misconduct by poll workers, pushing back observers, and even allegations of fraud in there. We have real questions in Pennsylvania. So to come out and say it's the most secure election in American history, that's just not an accurate statement, and it seems like a partisan attempt to just hit back at the president as he pursues important litigation.
So you think that Krebs had a political agenda there, was trying to take a shot at the president by saying something that he couldn't possibly have proven?
I don't know if it was a partisan agenda, a personal grievance, what it was, but it definitely seemed to be animated by something, and it seemed to go directly at this president and legitimate claims that he's pursuing in court.
Well, maybe the Department of Homeland Security just couldn't find anything.
Yeah, well, look down in Georgia. We have one recount going on right now, just one. There are others that may or may not happen, but there's one going on, and you found nearly 6,000 ballots not counted. Just yesterday, we heard about a California man who planned to cast 8,000 votes in the name of deceased people and others that L.A. is now looking at, and there's a good article in the L.A. Times about that. So, you know, maybe he should look around at just public news information that's out there, and he can find all the evidence he needs, that there are real questions that need to be asked, because we need integrity in our election system.
If the president doesn't win and Joe Biden it's proven that he is the elected president, what happens with the transfer of power? Will it be peaceful?
Look, this president has always said he will engage in a peaceful transfer of power if the facts bear out that way. But the president believes, and so too do many others, that if every legal vote is counted, he will remain president. He's pursuing litigation, but this president always wants what's in the best interest of our country.
Kind of interesting. I hear them using taking care of the grounds while you're out there. I admire your focus, Kayleigh. It's getting a little bit challenging. So we understand that the Biden team is getting concerned because they want to be able to coordinate on the coronavirus as well as intelligence issues. Do you think even if the president ends up finding votes that gets him the victory, it would hurt just to read the Biden people in, just so months down the line, if Joe Biden becomes president, he won't be able to say, hey, those months, if I only had those months back, we wouldn't have had these negative things happen?
Well, a few things. One, the administration is doing everything statutorily required for a transition. It is up to the GSA to what we call reach ascertainment for an election. They're independent of us, and they haven't declared that just yet. The former vice president receives an intelligence briefing. He does get that. He's been getting that for months. And I'd say this with respect to COVID. What this president has done, a vaccine in record time, ready to be manufactured, already manufactured, but ready to be distributed. A task force that's done an excellent job, a stockpile that was left empty by Obama Biden that he's filled up since then. He's left an infrastructure in place where COVID can be handled, and we believe that we will do so going forward in a second Trump administration.
All right, and the news this morning, I don't know if you heard about an hour ago, but Pfizer has said that apparently their vaccine is 95% effective. Which joins Moderna, which is terrific. So we all want, you know, a lot of people want to get, I think the latest public opinion poll was at least 60% of the people out there want to get that as soon as possible. But we know all across the country, Kayleigh, cases are spiking, unfortunately. And this is the week before Thanksgiving when families are going to be together. And there are a number of governors who are suggesting, look, you don't need to be in a big group. Particularly if people are outside your bubble. What do you think of these suggestions and guidelines some of the governors have given in advance of this? Because it is a super contagious disease.
Yeah, I think a lot of the guidelines you're seeing are Orwellian. Let me start by saying the CDC has put out considerations as we prepare to go about Thanksgiving, about socially distancing, wearing masks, doing what you can. There's a whole list, a page of very good considerations, and in that they say we're not recommending a certain number of people, but we are giving considerations that you should put in place. And I think that's the American way. The American people know how to protect their health. We've dealt with COVID for many months, but it's Orwellian in a place like Oregon to say if you gather in numbers more than 6, we might come to your house and arrest you and you get 30 days of jail time. That's not the American way. We don't lose our freedom in this country. We make responsible health decisions as individuals.
Right. And Kayleigh, let me just ask you one follow-up question, and that is this. You know, nobody likes to have anybody tell people what they can and cannot do inside their houses. But it was a number of months ago that the White House effectively said, you know what, we're going to give the power to the governors to decide what to do. These are determinations by the governors what is required on the ground in their states. So ultimately, didn't the White House say, do what you want to do?
Yeah, of course. It's up to every state to do what they want to do, but there are consequences for those states. In New York, you've seen just this morning, I think Brian noted hundreds of thousands of people who have moved out of the city. So the American people, we're a freedom-loving people. We can make good decisions. We can wash our hands, wear masks, socially distance, but we can also decide in our own personal domicile, our own home, whether we can have our family members present at any given time. That is the American way. That is freedom.
Kayleigh, earlier you were talking about the vaccine, and New York's Governor Andrew Cuomo is complaining because he thinks that the vaccines are coming out too quickly. Listen to this.
Why is it moving so fast? 2 reasons. Money and ego. The first drug company that has the vaccine, that is big money. You didn't need Trump to tell the vaccine companies you should develop a vaccine. He had nothing to do with it. President, it's ego. On the way out the door, he wants to be able to say, I solved COVID because I discovered a vaccine. Now, it's all BS. He didn't do anything. It's the drug companies. And nobody's going to trust him saying it's a safe vaccine.
You know, Kayleigh, who cares if they make money? If a vaccine would save my mom from getting this, who has diabetes, who is on dialysis, she has to go to a facility 3 times a week, and we all worry about that. She had a stroke a few years ago. She's in a wheelchair. I mean, if that vaccine could save my mom from getting COVID, because the likelihood of her surviving that is pretty low. I don't care if the drug company's making money. I want it out now.
Yeah, that's exactly right. What you see there from Andrew Cuomo is a very envious executive who made the horrible and mortal decision to put seniors in nursing homes with COVID back into those nursing homes, and we saw a tremendous amount of pain and loss in that state. This vaccine is possible because of hard work and because of Trump-style ingenuity. Back on January 13th, when this novel virus just came to our shores, President Trump had already partnered with Moderna, one of the successful vaccines. What were Democrats doing? They were trying to impeach the president over a baseless Ukraine phone call. What was Andrew Cuomo doing? Who knows? But he wasn't doing what was in the best interest of the people of New York.
Listen, the warp speed, you break it down. It's one of the president's finest accomplishments. He got rid of all the paperwork and all the bureaucracy that would have stopped this vaccine. And he'll put the money in and bought the vaccine ahead of time, not knowing if it was going to work or not. That is why the military, who's already been drilling down on this, is ready to distribute it. For the governor there to be on 97.1 selling a book that no one should buy, it should be How Not to Handle the Coronavirus, is sickening. And for him to sit there and say it's the president's ego is an insult to anyone paying attention right now.
That's exactly right. We have this saying in the White House, do it in Trump time. What that means is do it faster than expected. You know, Dr. Fauci said this could take up to 18 months. What did this president do? Fastest vaccine in American history. And it wasn't just found by the end of the year. It was produced in advance, where 40 million vulnerable Americans will have a vaccine by the end of the year. That is what we call Trump time. Andrew Cuomo might be unable to recognize it, but that's what hard work, ingenuity, and a businessman back there behind me in the West Wing does for the American people. article.
Well, there were a couple of businessmen on the hot seat yesterday on Capitol Hill, virtually. You had Jack Dorsey and Mark Zuckerberg from Twitter and Facebook, respectively. And they were being called on the carpet because apparently the Senate Judiciary Committee had a whistleblower who said, look, these are the tools that Facebook uses essentially to coordinate with the other platforms to censor people. And Jack Dorsey got called out about how Twitter locked the account of the New York Post when they were talking about Hunter Biden's overseas business dealings. And Jack Dorsey himself said, you know what? In hindsight, we got that wrong. But watch.
We were called here today because of an enforcement decision we made against the New York Post based on a policy we created in 2018 to prevent Twitter from being used to spread hacked materials. This resulted in us blocking people from sharing a New York Post article, publicly or privately. We made a quick interpretation, using no other evidence, that the materials in the article were obtained through hacking, and according to our policy, we blocked them from being spread. Upon further consideration, we admitted this action was wrong and corrected it within 24 hours.
But that's not exactly right. It took 2 full weeks because Twitter was demanding that the New York Post take that down, delete that. The New York Post said nope, because it's not wrong. And so ultimately, 2 weeks later, Twitter caved. What did you learn from listening to those guys talk about their businesses, how it is influencing America?
Yeah, here's what I learned. So they apologized for the New York Post censoring, and you're right to say, Steve, it was 2 weeks, not 24, 48 hours. I learned that they apologized for Commission of Border Patrol Mark Morgan being banned. I myself got a public apology from Instagram when they banned me for sharing a story about Elizabeth Warren from none other than the Washington Post. What I learned is an apology in big tech is an admission of wrongdoing against a conservative. At what point is an apology an admission? We've reached that point because their bias goes one way, solely towards President Trump, his movement, the half of the country that professes conservative values.
So, Kayleigh, we know the president and Melania, the first lady, are going to celebrate Thanksgiving there at the White House. I know normally they go down to Mar-a-Lago. I know they're going to pardon the turkeys. Why they decide to stay in D.C. this year?
Well, the president's hard at work. He's hard at work on COVID, among other issues, drawing down our number of troops in Afghanistan and Iraq, bringing our men and women home. He's hard at work, and so he's staying here at the White House, and it will be a lovely Thanksgiving for him and the First Lady here in the White House.
All right, do you think we'll hear from the president soon?
Perhaps. That's up to President Trump. You know, sometimes he'll make the decision to come out on any given moment, but I'm sure you'll hear from him at the right moment.
All right, nice hearing from you. Kayleigh, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
From the noisy
Thanks,
North
Kayleigh.
Lawn. All right.